Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. This is our Manchester United versus Tottenham combined 11, and it's not often that we do these, but I think they're either really big games, we'll probably do one for Man City, or what's the point actually, they probably get every single player in it, or they're symbolic of where United are. And already this season we've done a combined 11 with Leicester, which showed that a team like Leicester have got players that push a lot of United players out. But Tottenham, a team that recently sacked their manager, has only had a manager in for a few games. Can they get many players in a combined 11? Because this is symbolic of where Manchester United are. It's Mourinho against Solskjaer, but it's Manchester United against Tottenham. Manchester United with all their revenue, with all their status against Tottenham. And how many of those Tottenham players get into a combined 11 with Manchester United? It's interesting, it's symbolic of where we are, and we're going to fly straight into it. For me, look, I know Lloris has got a bad injury. I know Lloris is a good goalkeeper, but for me, there's only David De Gea. I mean, David De Gea, recently, you've seen a lot of these team of the decades, and I think across the board De Gea has been the goalkeeper getting in there. He's dropped off a little bit recently, but he's not dropping off because of age or anything like that. I think he's dropping off because he's in an unstable atmosphere at Manchester United. I said this about Harry Maguire the other day. I think Harry Maguire's been performing better on Twitter than he has on the football pitch, and I rate Harry Maguire. I will not be one of those people who say that Harry Maguire's a flop, but he's not performing well for Manchester United. I think he's another player that came in and immediately is now starting to see their game drain. And we've seen this happen a lot of times, and it's certainly happened with De Gea. I think De Gea for a long time at United sort of rebelled against how bad we were as a team. I said it many a time with De Gea, we probably would have been more mid-table at some of those seasons under Van Gaal if it wasn't for the brilliance of De Gea. He's dropped off a little bit late recently, but he's still a very, very good goalkeeper, and I would put him ahead of Lloris without a shadow of a doubt. At right back, Aaron Wan-Bissaka. I mean, you're up against Aurier, or you're up against, I don't even know who they've got at right back for Spurs. Walker-Peters, Aurier, Wan-Bissaka for me. I mean, look, right backs are meant to defend. Wan-Bissaka couldn't cross his legs, but defensively, lots of confidence in him. Very, very good right back defensively, and that's what you want. Yes, Wan-Bissaka's got to improve going forward, but as a right back defensively, I'm very, very happy with him. I think he's a very good player. I think he's another player that is starting to suffer from United-ism. It is an illness. It does sap your ability. Came in, was brilliant, and now I think people are starting to nitpick his game a bit. I just think this is what happens. You come into United, you come in and you look like you're going to be a great signing, and then it starts to infect you. This football club, the way that it's run, the way that we coach our players, the way it zaps them. But I would still put him comfortably into the centre back position as well. There, I'm just going to chuck Harry Maguire in as a centre back because I think he follows on from Wan-Bissaka correctly. I nearly argued for Davinson Sanchez here, Vertonghen possibly as well, but Vertonghen's on the wane, I think. And the thing about Harry Maguire is a lot of people will probably get some Spurs fans watching this going, "You're having a laugh." For me, it was between Maguire and Davinson Sanchez, and Vertonghen was not part of the conversation. Davinson Sanchez is a player I like. I think he's a player that Jose Mourinho likes, but I think Jose Mourinho likes Harry Maguire. And Pep Guardiola liked Harry Maguire. He was just priced out of it. £80 million was probably a little bit too much, but I expected us to pay that. Harry Maguire is suffering at Manchester United at the moment. There's no doubt about that. I think there's too much being put onto his shoulders. I think he's being expected to captain the team at times, run the defence, bring the ball out from the back, and yet this is a huge step up for him. He's used to playing in front of about 30 to 40,000 people. He's playing in front of that one of the biggest clubs in the world. There's a lot of pressure on him. The players around him can't handle that pressure, and I think it's starting to impact on him. But he's not had a bad season, and I would still have Harry Maguire in there, and he's still England's best centre-back for me, so I certainly would put Harry Maguire in there. I certainly think it opens up a bit of a debate as well, but for me, he gets in there. Toby Alderweireld would play alongside him. Certainly wouldn't put Lindelof there. Twansebi's not quite ready yet. And for me, although Alderweireld is starting to wane as well in relation to his he's getting a bit older, I think he's a very good centre-back. I think he'll be a better centre-back under Mourinho. And I do think Davinson Sanchez will improve under Mourinho as well. And I think if you're asking this question maybe in 6 months' time, you might have Alderweireld and Davinson Sanchez as your centre-backs if United continue to decline and Spurs continue to improve. But at this moment in time, I'd be happy with Toby and Harry Maguire as the centre-backs. in that team. Left back might cause a few issues for some people. I couldn't put Luke Shaw in there at the moment. I think injury problems are a problem and inconsistency. I certainly wouldn't put Brandon Williams in there. I mean, God no. I mean, I think he's a player of the future. I think he's a good player, but look at some of the mistakes he's made, which is expected as a teenager. He picks up a yellow card most games. His positional sense is a bit all over the place. He's a raw talent. He's a very good talent, but I've said this before. You don't start saying left back position solved with Brandon Williams. He's a young kid and he must be given games in the team and out of the team to nurture him. That's what happens. Mourinho's gone with Ben Davies over Danny Rose. Danny Rose didn't even play as a centre back at the left back at the weekend when Ben Davies was injured. He didn't play Danny Rose, so I think he played for Tongan there. So that shows you what Mourinho thinks about Danny Rose. I think Danny Rose defensively is a little bit suspect. I prefer Ben Davies, and Ben Davies gets my shout in that position. And again, I think that here you might have a few qualms with this one. Harry Winks drops into that position for me. There's nobody at United. Matic, Fred, McTominay, forget about it. They just don't show the consistency that I would want. But interesting, Winks didn't play at the weekend for Mourinho either. So, and I think he played Ndombele. Well, Ndombele is a very good player. Eric Dyer. But for me, it's Harry Winks. I really like Harry Winks. I think he's very, very consistent. I think he gets about, he puts a tackle in, he's very good on the ball. I really like him. It'd be interesting to see if Harry Winks, there's always a fall guy with Mourinho. And I wonder at Spurs whether Harry Winks will be the fall guy at Spurs, because he loves Eric Dyer. He wanted to spend £40 million on Eric Dyer as Manchester United manager. I'm so glad we didn't. But I like Harry Winks. He gets into the spot there for me. There's certainly nobody from Manchester United who gets close to him in that position. Moving on to the next player. And I think that I'm going to go with a 4-1 holding midfielder and 2 box-to-box. Because for me, in the modern game, this is the way that you should be playing. And I think that there are a lot of options that we've spoken about. Certainly, you've got the likes of we've mentioned Ndombele, but for me, it's Paul Pogba walks into that team. Paul Pogba walks into that team. I still think Paul Pogba walks into most combined 11s, and I know he's not played for most of the season. And I'm not going to rule people. This is not an in-form thing. This is everybody at their, everybody's available. So Paul Pogba gets in. I still think, as inconsistent as Paul Pogba has been in a United shirt, his actual ability is up there with the very, very best. And Paul Pogba gets in a combined 11 as far as I'm concerned. And I know, again, that's controversial, but I think that's sad. I think that Paul Pogba is a very, very good player. He's a very useful player. And any United fan that disagrees with me about that, have you seen our midfield? I mean, we do miss that player, whether he wants to be here or not. So Paul Pogba definitely gets in. And again, I think the third position could cause a few issues, but I've gone with Eriksen. I like Christian Eriksen. I wouldn't want him at Manchester United because I don't think he's actually what we need. But on his day, I think, am I going to go with Ndombele? No. Am I going to go with a Lamela? No. I'm not going to go with a Pereira or a Mata or a Lingard. I suppose the one that probably does come to mind is Dele Alli, but I find that ridiculous because Dele Alli's played very well for Jose Mourinho, but has been atrocious for Pochettino for a very, very long time. So, and some would say so is Eriksen, but if you're asking me an informed player, for me, I think Eriksen's the better player. So I would go Eriksen over Dele Alli. I mean, look, we were having an argument the other week, very recently, about who's the biggest who's the biggest joke, Dele Alli or Jesse Lingard, and suddenly people want to put Dele Alli in combined 11s. No, not for me. Watch him score a hat-trick against United now, but no, not Dele Alli for me. And I would go with Eriksen, which leaves us with those front 3 positions. 3 United players in so far. 4 United players in so far and 4 Spurs players. So very equal as we move into those final 3 positions. And look, I cannot create a debate point here. It's Harry Kane as the number 10. Martial's movable. Rashford is movable, but whether they're movable or whether they want to go for that shirt, they're not going to get it. I think Harry Kane, for me, is one of the most underrated players in world football. And that sounds stupid because he's England's captain, he's England's goal scorer. The English media love him, but I think beyond that, I don't think he gets the praise he would do if he was Harry O'Canio, Decanio. Or I think if he was foreign, like Aguero, he would get a hell of a lot more appreciation. Very good at holding the ball up. very good at scoring goals, and I think that, you know, comparisons to people like Lukaku are unfair because Lukaku hasn't got a first touch and Harry Kane has. I really do rate Harry Kane. I'd love Harry Kane to be at Manchester United. I'm sure that's not going to happen anytime soon, but the goals he gets, you know, sometimes I think Harry Kane's biggest weakness is that he gets himself back playing games when he's not fit, and I think that's, and you know, but that show, you know, would you rather have a player who's not getting themselves back because they don't want to get back quick, or do you want to get players getting back because they, you know, obviously wants to score goals? I don't think it's the Harry Kane show. I think he likes to score goals and he likes to win games, and I think Harry Kane's a fantastic striker, and I don't think anybody would have any major issues with Harry Kane getting into that team. For me, there's no questions about who plays off the left. It's Son. I know they call him Sonaldo, but I understand why they call him Sonaldo, because he has got a very similar running style on the ball to Ronaldo. I'd call him a Poundland Ronaldo, but that is not an insult. So if you're a Poundland Ronaldo, you're still one of the best players in the world, because Ronaldo and Messi transgress. You know, they're bigger than world class. They're basically solar system class. They're bigger than that. They're universe class. You know, Ronaldo and Messi are amazing. So if you get called a B-Tech Messi or a B-Tech Ronaldo, then you're still a very good player. And Son, to me, is just he's got that real work ethic. I don't know whether that just comes with players from that area of the world. We certainly had it with Ji-sung Park. Really strong mentality, really strong work ethic. But to go with that, he's just, you know, again, I think he's underrated. I think that, you know, I hate stereotypes, and I think that maybe if Son, I don't need to call him Sonaldo myself. If Son was Portuguese or Brazilian, I think he'd be up there mentioned consistently as one of the top 5 players in the world. But because he's not, because he's from a less fashionable area of the world when it comes to football, I don't think he gets that status he deserves. He's a fantastic player. He's a very dangerous player. And he walks into this combined 11. There is no, you know, he's playing off that left-hand side. You know, again, Kane and Rashford and Martial are not getting into Kane's spot, and they can try getting in on the left wing, but they ain't getting in that spot either, because it's Son every day of the week. He's way better than Rashford, and he's way better than Martial. He delivers a hell of a lot more, and he's a fantastic player. So, you know, and you know what the funny thing is, I've consistently said that my 2 favourite players at United are Martial and Rashford, and I can't get them into a combined 11, which I think reflects as bad on them as it does on Woodward and Solskjaer and everybody else. This is a reflection of where Manchester United are as a football club, and your favourite players probably aren't getting into this team. Some of them are getting in because Spurs have a weakness there. I mean, Harry Maguire is probably getting in because at the moment I don't think Davinson Sanchez is better than him, but you know, I cannot get Rashford and Martial in this team unless could I do it by putting in a player that's going to play out of position because they don't play off the right? Well, no, I don't. I'm going Lucas Moura, and again, I think this might be a little bit controversial, but I really came down to Dan James or Lucas Moura. I had no thoughts of Mata or Lingard again. Forget that. I didn't even think about putting Rashford or Martial off the right because they don't do that. I went Dan James, and to be honest with you, Dan James is better off the left. Like, Dan James' position is the left, by the way. But I put Dan James on the right. I put him up against Lucas Moura, and you know, it's interesting. Lucas Moura was another player that was on the bench for Mourinho at the weekend. He put Sissoko more to the right, and I think he might do that in the game against United. He might not go so attacking, but Lucas Moura is a better player than Dan James. Lucas Moura is, you know, he was a player that was linked to us, and I didn't want him basically because he snubbed us to go to PSG all those years ago. But he's a very, very good player. Inconsistent, you know, but maybe it's the Brazilian thing. I don't know. Willian's a bit like that. Douglas Costa's a bit like that. Inconsistent, but on their day, unplayable. And I think Lucas Moura is again a very, very good player. And I think, you know, look at Jose Mourinho. A year ago, he was our manager, sacked by Woodward. A year later, he's coming to Old Trafford with a team that I've got I can't even count, 7 Spurs players to 4 Manchester United players. And Spurs don't really spend that much money, and we do. So it's annihilation in many ways. And this is why Spurs actually, you know, Spurs are probably favourites going into this game, even though I don't think Spurs will win. Old Trafford, Mourinho coming back, I think it would be too impactful a loss for United, but it's definitely a loss for me in a combined 11. And as I said, United is my club. I love Manchester United, as do many Manchester United fans, but we've got to be realistic. We did this a few weeks ago when we played Leicester. Leicester got more players in. We beat Leicester. Of course we can. You know, Spurs could go to Crystal Palace in a few weeks and lose. It's not to say we're going to lose the game, but I think in a combined 11, that's the comfortable combined 11 for me. I cannot think of a United player that gets in. I think the only two are Rashford and Martial, but where would you find them a place? You're going to have to play them to the right-hand side of that front three and play them in a position they never play just to get them in. And I could argue that if I wanted to, but actually I thought let's go with the players that plays those positions. Let's do more against Dan James. And the midfield, United's midfield's awful. Pogba's been injured for a long time and he's the only one who gets in. Left backs isn't a massive problem for United, but Ben Davies is the better one. And it's interesting. I think United have got a very good centre-back in Tuanzebe, and I think Davinson Sanchez will get better under Mourinho. So I'd be interested to see in a year's time who those two centre-backs are in a combined 11. But this is just evidence of where Manchester United are as a football team and how we are dropping off, in my mind. And people at United need to wake up to these sort of things, because this isn't combined 11. I'm not even going to do a combined 11 for Man City, by the way, because I don't, spoiler alert, who of Manchester United gets into a combined 11 for Man City? Does De Gea get ahead of Edison at the moment? Probably not. Does Wan-Bissaka get in ahead of Cancelo or Kyle Walker? I don't think so, really. Maybe. Do any of our centre-backs get in? Possibly. You could make a case for Harry Maguire, but that's only because Man City centre-backs aren't doing that well at the moment, but are ours. Left-back, forget about it. I think Mendy walks in there. Every one of their midfielders is better than our midfielders, and their front three gets in over ours. So, that's annihilation. But we're now doing combined 11s with Leicester and Spurs, and we're struggling to win those. I mean, realistically, we maybe should have done a combined 11 with Villa at the weekend, because they'd probably still get some players in. And this is it. One of the biggest wage bills in world football, and yet we're not getting many players in combined 11s. That, to me, says sack somebody, or sack a lot of people. Namely, some of these players on ridiculous wages, namely the coaching staff who's not getting the best out of these players, and namely Woodward and co for recruiting these players on stupid wages. It's embarrassing, but it is absolutely evidential of where Manchester United are at the moment. Anyway, get your comments in below. Make sure you smash a like on the video. Massive game coming up tomorrow, but I wanted to do this because I think it just shows that, these United fans who are going Ollie in or Woodward in, or it's not as bad as it is, it's not really as bad as it is. The evidence is piling up that it is, and I think I would argue with anybody. Tell me more United players that get in that combined 11, because if you're saying Rashford and Martial, they're two of my favourite players, but I cannot find a place for those two ahead of Kane and Son. I just I'm passionately loyal, but I ain't stupid. Thanks everyone for watching. Speak to you all soon.